Hello, my name is Maximilian Schich. I'm a professor for Arts and Technology here at the University of Texas at Dallas, and I will present today together with Roger Malina.
So I'm Roger Malina. I'm a new professor here also at the University of Texas at Dallas. I'm the executive editor of the Leonardo Publications and work with Enik Bureau, the president of Leonardo Awards. We wish we could be with you this evening, but hopefully we'll be able to make a good presentation.
We will talk today about arts, humanities, and complex networks, which is an ongoing symposium project which aims to bring together people who either use networks as an inspiration for art, as a means of visualization, so networks need to be visualized, and also people who think or find networks as a tangible dimension of data in arts, humanities, and culture. So we have different perspectives, and we'll look at that. So the organizers of this kind of symposium series is Roger Malina, Isabel Meirelles, who is from Northeastern University, a professor of information design, myself, and this year Enik Bureau helps us with the organization in Copenhagen. We have a number of sponsors. First and foremost, obviously Leonardo, who mostly sponsors the network of interested people in art science.
And publishes the papers.
And publishes the papers. Then we have two universities who are sort of the main sponsors. One is Northeastern University in Boston, where it all started out, and UT Dallas, where we both reside at the moment. There is a third university this year, is Technical University of Denmark, where the symposium will take place. And we also count on the generous sponsorship of the Studio Lab project, which is a new project over at Copenhagen. As you can see on the map, which appears in the next slide, this is a global effort. It's something which sparks global interest from researchers from all over the world. And this also basically has this consequence in our programs. It's something we are always surprised of. We basically send these three words, arts, humanities, and complex networks, out like a radar signal, and we look what's coming back. And of course, even though we're all interested in these kind of topics, we are always surprised of what's coming back. And let me give you a breakdown of what's going on this year. We just finished the call for papers, so now we have 3 keynotes and 8 contributors. The keynote speakers include Danny Vendricic, who is one of the project members, actually the leader of Wikidata, the first project of Wikimedia Foundation since 2006, which aims to basically make the structured information or the network information in Wikipedia editable by the crowd itself. We have Scott Gresham-Lancaster, who will talk about network music. He's a veteran in network music, heading the band The Hub, and he's also a professor here at Arts and Technology at the University of Texas, so we thought we'd bring him over. And then a third keynote is Paolo Cucciarelli, who is the head of density design and the professor at the Politecnico di Milano. He will talk about information visualization. And in order to give you an idea about what this whole thing is about and what are the possible contribution, I give you a very quick overview with one sample figure over the 8 contributions this year. So the first contribution is by Doron Goldfarb and his collaborators. It's about basically a crowdsourced or a literature curated, as biologists would say, version of the famous bar diagram, which was the opening poster for the inaugural exhibition of the Museum of Modern Art. There is a paper about the diverse menu of films, basically an alternative version other than film review. Basically, how can we come up, looking at the meta information in films, to come up with a better recommendation system done by computer scientists around Imoke Akens-Horvath. There is a contribution by Marnix van Berchum, which is about the interrelationships of polyphonic music manuscripts. A very interesting thing which brings together the kind of evolution and similarity question in music in early modern times. Another thing which we are very, very happy to have attracted is coming from a totally different direction, meaning the field of evolutionary game theory, which is a contribution from Argentina by Bruno Mess and his collaborators, where they look at the evolution of tango, modeling the evolutions, the style evolution with a mathematical model. Another contribution, Santiago Ortiz, will basically bring us a new visualization of Twitter conversations programmed from scratch. So there is a very interesting thing going on in network science where more and more tools are developed, like Schich or Cytoscape, and in this case there is basically development done from ground up by a single person, which is an interesting thing to see. Another contribution would be Ruth Arnold's Protestant letter networks, which again looks at a body of early modern work, and this is very much basically in the mainstream of digital humanities, looking at letters, which obviously is a part of network research in the arts and humanities. Something you wouldn't find in the mainstream of digital humanities is the next contribution by Thomas Lombardi, who looks at the co-depiction of saints in paintings, which interestingly ends up in a depiction which looks very much like a food web, where predators eat prey. And the final contribution by François-Joseph Lapointe is about the interrelation of practitioners in art science and what would be the structure of the spectrum between art and science, and how are these two fields connected. And finally, I would like to point to our publications. So we have an ongoing special section in Leonardo Journal, which is edited by Isabel Meirelles and myself. And out of that, we compile an ebook, which is available via Amazon as a Kindle ebook. And the editors are Roger, Isabel, and myself. And you can also see there is a web page, ahcncompanion.info, which is the go-to place where we will put up videos. You will find the links towards the journal articles, the latest abstracts, and so on. And of course, finally, we'd like to point to our symposium website for the symposium, which takes place in Copenhagen on June 4, and we would be very, very happy to see as many of you there as possible. So with that, I give over to Roger for some comments.
Okay, so I'm sorry that we've missed the discussion at the BNF all day today, but I think one of the things that Max and I wanted to share was just the excitement that we've had. We started this symposium several years ago now, 4 years ago, and as he said, as we put out this call for papers, it's just amazing the diversity of work both internationally but also in terms of subject material. And so it seems to us that this application of complex network science has turned out to be a rather powerful new introduction into the general discussion. Of course, the idea of networks and rhizomes has been very strong in cultural theory for many, many years, but we're certainly convinced that there are some new developments going on at the moment, and maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah, I think the key fact which we just run into is that networks, complex networks, actually meaning networks where you have emergent phenomena which will go beyond the intuition of researchers, become a tangible fact of data. So databases are full of networks in all dimensions, and that's what the artists use, that's what the researchers use, and that's more or less also the challenge of network visualization, which is similar to, say, the development of new conventions of architectural drawings around 1500. We get new visualization conventions every couple of weeks in a really massive speed of innovation, which is always surprising. And at the moment, this field is sort of an exploding one. We have exponential growth in all ends, and it's interesting to have this forum where people can come together and actually share ideas.
So I think, you know, one of the things that struck us is that the simple idea of going from organizing things through, say, the tree of knowledge to the network of knowledge, it sounds very simple, but actually it has very profound effects. And part of that effect is you have to come up with new ways of representing what you're finding. And that visualization process involves both both the perception of what's going on, but also the cognitive process of understanding what's going on. And so we're clearly in a very interesting period right now where people are inventing new visualizations all the time because we don't yet really know how to represent this new way of thinking about things.
Another interesting thing is that not only do networks become important in more and more fields, what's also interesting is that the established fields such as physics, biology, and so on, more and more anneal themselves to the territory of arts, humanities, and culture, in a sense that they are now interested more and more in effects such as time and networks. For example, there's a huge satellite symposium taking place concurrently to ours, where over 2 days the specialists will talk about time and networks. And another interesting thing within the same realm is that people find out that we have similar problems. So biologists would have a sampling problem. They have incomplete information, which we are very used to also in humanities, and obviously which is something artists would point out all the time to basically point to the shortcomings of science and so on. And so we have a lot of topics to talk about, and this should be something which should be on the menu of the arts and humanities as such. But interestingly, a lot of the drive comes actually out of fields which are traditionally quantitative, such as social sciences, physics, mathematics, and so on. And interestingly, these fields are now asking more and more questions which you would traditionally hear from a philosopher, from a historian, and so on.
Right. So I think just to finish up here, I think part of the excitement that we have is that we really see new kinds of conversations going on between disciplines that maybe are not used to engaging in this kind of discussion. As Mac just said, suddenly historians and philosophers are talking with biologists and physicists about actually how you know something and how you structure that knowledge. The science of complex networks provides certain tools that can be used by all these disciplines, so that they're truly transdisciplinary tools, if you like. But what's interesting, of course, is the new research questions that come out of that process. And so I think in what we see happening is that people are getting new ideas, getting new research questions coming out of these discussions and presentations. And so we think we're at the beginning of a very interesting development.
Yeah, and one final thing which may be interesting within the framework of being at the Bibliothèque Nationale, for the last decades in the information science of libraries, we have often talked about standards, we have often talked about standard data models, T. Salroy, about how we should do things, and we have debated how we formalize things. But right now we actually find that whatever we apply, even if we are adhering to a standard, due to the fact that we have local curators or local activity by people who enter data in things, we end up with structures which we don't understand readily from the start, and we actually have to find ways how we actually extract the emerging information from such things as Europeana, from such things as large collections, large digital collections in libraries. And that's where arts, humanities, and complex networks with all perspectives can actually help.
So thank you very much, and we'll now ask Annick Bureau to moderate the rest of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.